Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we have a early impression video, or late night insight if you will. Today I'm wearing my dinosaur shirt in solidarity of my daughter who went to the Science Museum this month. So she's been all about dinosaurs. So it's been a fun month, but I've got her the whole month of July. So I'm kind of having to sneak these videos in wherever I can. But today we're going to talk about a fragrance from the house of Nishane, and it is called Afrika-Olifant. And you can see that I am working off of a decant, so thank you, Andrea, very kindly for sending this my way. And the whole idea with these videos is these early impression or late night insight videos is just to kind of put my 2 cents out there into the cosmos, if you will, into the YouTube fragcom of a scent that I otherwise never would be able to, because I don't own a bottle. I probably will never own a bottle. And, you know, it's funny because this fragrance came out in 2014. It was created by Jorge Lee, who is, again, one of the main in-house perfumers, I think, of Nishane. And I have been a defender of Nishane for the most part, I would say. I've reviewed fragrances like Sultan Vetiver, and, you know, while others kind of really bash the amber woods in the base, I defended this. I really like Sultan Vetiver. I think it's one of the best vetiver fragrances out there, if you don't mind Beast Mode Vetiver, and there's many different types of vetiver in that as well. And I recently reviewed Fan Your Flames, which I could easily also see this going sour for some people who are, let's say, in my position. But I really enjoy wearing this. There's something about it that just works on my skin, and that's just kind of how it is. Now, I will tell you that the trend will not continue when we get to Ani, because I have absolutely turned on this. I have brutally turned on Ani, but for the most part, I've been a defender of Nishane, let's say, while they were being rigorously attacked. And that's just how I feel. I mean, I just tell you my 2 cents, and people like it or don't like it, and I don't really care. I'm just up here to tell you how I feel. But there's still a lot from the brand that I have not reviewed or I have not smelled. There's one in particular that everyone kept telling me, Ramsey, you have to smell. As a lover of animalic fragrances, you have to smell this fragrance. And this is the one that kept coming up. Afrika-Olifant. So whenever I got the sample in, I was like, I'm going to prioritize it. So I've been wearing it multiple nights in a row, and I've got it on again tonight. And the reason everyone kept telling me that I had to wear this fragrance was because this is probably, I don't know, because I haven't smelled everything, so I can't say this is 100% true, but my guess is that this is probably Nishane's most animalic creation, okay? And I think it does share some similarities with some fragrances that I have in my collection. If you've ever smelled things like Hard Leather by LM, if you've ever smelled Leather Oud, if you've ever smelled something like Hyrax by Zoologist, which I will review one of these days. I've got a ton of these little 10 mil atomizers that I've been waiting to do reviews on, Hyrax being one of them. So if you've ever smelled Hyrax, you'll be sort of in the area. Obviously, they're all their own fragrances in their own right, but, you know, if you just kind of blended those three together, I think you're in the ballpark. And so the thing is I love animalics, and so everyone's convinced that I'm going to absolutely love Afrika-Olifant because I'm an animalic lover, right? And I have a high tolerance for animalics compared to the average bear or the average ram. Usually these fragrances are a pure love for me, and so the thing about it, though, the way I will describe it is that you take a certain grouping of note listings and you put them together. And everyone just imagines that if every fragrance just has these note listings, then it's an instant love, right? An example of what I'm referring to. Yesterday, I wore a fragrance from the house of Guerlain called Metallica. I've reviewed it on the channel. Or if you have a bottle after the house of Guerlain got sued and they changed the name to Metalis because of a lawsuit from the band Metallica, which is absolutely nuts. But that fragrance came out in the year 2000. It was created by the great Jean-Paul Guerlain, and one of my favorite perfumers of all time, hands down. Very few perfumers create anything that moves me in the way Jean-Paul Guerlain does. And Metallica has bergamot, carnation, ylang ylang, orange blossom, rose, vanilla, tonka bean, amber, and iris. I mean, can you think of any other fragrances that have that combination? Probably. There's probably a lot of fragrances that have it. But can they put the notes together in a perfect harmony like Jean-Paul Guerlain, the master, one of the all-time greats, did with Metallica? And, you know, it's like saying, well, I know the words to Nessun Dorma, So I can sing the song. I can get up here and sing opera just like anyone else because I know the words. Well, I mean, you could, but I can start singing it right now. Everyone's ears would probably start bleeding and you'd instantly stop watching. But can I sing it like Luciano Pavarotti? You know, can I make the hair on the back of your neck stand up? Can I make you cry? You know, can I make your heart skip a beat? That's the difference, right? Knowing something and being able to put it all together in a way that's genius are two different things to me. And so that is reserved for the greats, okay? It's doubtful I'm going to get up here and be Luciano Pavarotti. Now, so the combination of notes in Afrika-Olifant is something I really enjoy. I'll give you, here's the note listing. So according to Parfumo, you've got labdanum, frankincense, myrrh, and ambergris in the top. You've got castoreum, civet, leather, and oud in the heart. And you have civetone, muscone, muscatone, and thibetone, which I don't even know what the hell thibetone is, but it sounds fucking dangerous. And in fact, if I click on thibetone, there's only one fragrance in the entire Parfumo database that has it, and that is Afrika-Olifant. So if anyone knows what the hell thibetone is, I would love for you to please enlighten me. But so that's the note listing, okay? So let me read you the blurb according to the brand, and then we'll kind of talk about my 2 cents. So it's considered an ambery, animalic, musky fragrance. It's an extrait de parfum. And this bottle's actually gone through 3 iterations. So the first bottle was white with kind of black writing on it. And then the second iteration, which I think came out in 2016 or 17, was silver. So it looked very similar to the current bottles. Actually, I have a second generation bottle. I'll show you what it looks like. I have a bottle of Spice Bazaar, which I'm actually going to review for you guys. I keep it in this little plastic thing because the older Nishane boxes were almost like you can get dirty, it feels like. It was a little different material compared to the newer sleeves, which are just like smooth, you know? So here's the second generation bottle that I'm referring to. And it basically looks like this. You can see the difference in the cap instantly than the newer Nishane caps that look more sculptured, and they're much heavier too. These caps are much lighter on the older ones. But this was basically silver on the second version of Afrika-Olifant. The third version is the gold version. That's the one with the gold plate on the front, and so that's the one that you will probably find now if you tried to buy it, unless you tried to hunt down an older bottle, which I don't know if it's worth it. I think Nishane has done good reformulations, or they've just discontinued stuff. Like with a good example of that is Spice Bazaar. I mean, they just discontinued Spice Bazaar. There's actually a couple Nishanes which are just discontinued and hard to find. So I'll review that one of these days as well. But the brand basically says that Afrika-Olifant is about stimulating hidden desires. Hidden desires. The fragrance opens with frankincense and myrrh. I agree with that. As animalic notes, castoreum and civet settle down. I agree with that. Leather and oud dominate the battlefield. Battlefield. Timid and audacious at the same time. Timid and audacious? Have you known that African elephants have the largest number of genes dedicated to smell of any mammal? Well, I mean, their trunk is fucking, you know, longer than a line of humans back to back to back. So, yeah, I mean, I would assume they can smell like hell, but that's an interesting stat, needless to say. And it's interesting they mentioned elephants because obviously Olifant is in the name. We'll talk a little bit about that here in a little bit. But so that's the blurb, okay? So please keep in mind while we're discussing this that this is an early impression. And I only have a few drops. I've obviously worn it a couple times, but you can see, I mean, that's what I'm working with. So it's not like I have years and years of experience. These are early impressions to just get my thoughts out there, as I've said, okay? So I figure better to have a chance to discuss it once than never kind of thing, right? So again, thank you, Andrea, for your generosity. So even though everyone focuses on the animalics, and as you can see, it has almost everything you can imagine on the animalic side, different types of musks, civet and civetone, castoreum, along with oud and leather and ambergris. I mean, really, the only thing missing is Hyrax. And what's crazy is, as I was wearing this, the funny thing is Hyrax is what kept coming to my mind. Like, if I was going to describe this to a hardcore frag head, I would say the blend of civet and castoreum and musk and ambergris and oud and leather and all that stuff has come across smelling like Hyraceum to me. If you aren't familiar with Hyrax, I actually have a top 5 Hyrax fragrance video on the channel. And if you know my channel, you know that's a little bit of an oddity to only have a top 5. And the reason is many perfumers don't like working with Hyrax because Hyrax is basically, Hyraceum is derived from Hyrax, which is a rodent, a marmot or rodent, if you will, that lives in Africa, interestingly enough, or North Africa mostly, in the Middle East and stuff like that. But it is essentially dried up, crystallized fecal matter of the Hyrax. Yes, I mean, you heard that right. Dried up, crystallized fecal matter of the Hyrax. So where they live, their droppings kind of mummify. It literally becomes mummified over years and decades and centuries and all that stuff. And it adds this strange kind of weird animalic warmth. It's almost like combining facets of all the other animalics into one. And that's why I think this fragrance smells like Hyrax. Because it feels like it has all the other animalics in here. The way I would describe Hyrax is just imagine if you had like a rock, okay? And that rock was like the meeting place where animals came every day to rub their back and maybe their ass on it. And every day that rock is like rubbed on, and you pretty soon you have old hair follicles stuck into the rock, and it smells musky like unwashed fur, and maybe another animal smells it and gets pissed off and pisses on the rock kind of thing, and he's like, I'll show you, other marmot. And at some point there's like this smell of just all these different type of animal byproducts on the rock. And so when you come to smell this, you're not smelling the animal, you're smelling the rock, and you're smelling this place where animals competed with each other. One animal pissed on it, the other animal smelled the other animal's piss and pissed on it, and somehow the rock has just soaked up all of these smells over the years. And so you imagine this pheromone rich marmot showdown at the rock, okay? And you grab the rock and you smell it, okay? And it smells like old musty animals and pissy civet and it smells like the warmth. It smells like the body animal of the animal that rubbed on it could still be felt, like the rock was still warm, like a bed where someone slept in, they vacated the bed, but the bed is still warm kind of thing. That's how Hyraceum feels. That's how it smells like to me. Very pheromone rich, and that's kind of how Afrika-Olifant smells in its animalic phase. But the animalic phase is not the first thing that's going to hit you, okay? I'm going to take you back to the beginning because the animalics take a little bit to warm up here. And so what happens is they don't hit you right away. They hit you in the mid. And in fact, the very first thing you get is spices and resins. Those are kind of the two main things to me. So it's a very spicy, resinous-like accord in the beginning. And what ends up happening is the myrrh makes it feel slightly earthy, okay? Like imagine African like soil that you're standing on, all right? Very earthy, and a little bit bitter, and the labdanum makes it feel slightly sticky. So some would almost say muddy, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. And there is this very strange kind of a couple features that seem to come to play over and over again. Number one is this weird kind of dusty accord. I call it strange because you don't get many dusty accords that just kind of swirl through these scents constantly like this one does. But, which sucks because what I'm about to tell you, you would not want to be stepping in dust constantly with what I'm about to say. But there's another smell that you have to mix with it, okay? And there's a few actually, but mixing with this resinous myrrh is this very slightly smoky frankincense. And if you can just imagine, you're on African soil and these smoke signals are like spiraling up on the horizon and you have no clue what's going on. At first, maybe you think it's some tribe sending smoke signals, and then you realize that it's not smoke, it's a dust devil. But that dust devil is kind of on the horizon, spinning up and then dying down occasionally. You know how dust devils will do. They'll just kind of spin out of nowhere sometimes. And when one spins up, all of a sudden you get this hint of like smoke thrown your way. And then that smoke like kind of dies down. Now later on, you'll get a little bit of ashiness and stuff like that in the base. But right now, it's almost like this swirling kind of smoke on the horizon where sometimes you get whiffs of it and sometimes you don't. But that's kind of the opening. Spicy, resinous, earthy. Some would say muddy. I would say dusty instead, personally. But just imagine, the dust being thrown your way and then disappearing as fast as it appeared, because that's how dust devils roll, right? So that smell that you have to add to the others, as I've discussed so far, there's another one. And the other smell that's very important for you to kind of wrap your head around with Afrika-Olifant, at least for me, I got it every single time I've tested this, and that is this smell of new sneakers. I'm talking straight out of the box, fresh, brand new sneakers, and maybe even specifically like sneakers from the 80s or 90s. Everyone knows that smell of sticking your face in a brand new pair of sneaker, smelling the new rubber soles. And maybe that's kind of what I'm smelling here. But both times I tested it, I get this rubbery, leathery thing that kind of joins the party with the resins and all that stuff. And that's why I said it sucks that you're going to be walking through dust because you're wearing brand new kicks on your feet. But so let's discuss the name, Afrika-Olifant, because, well, Africa, obviously, the weird part about this is Africa spelled with a K. We spell it with a C, but no big deal there. Most people know Africa is Africa. But Olifant, I think, even if you didn't Google search it, if you ask somebody off, anybody, what does the name Olifant remind you of? I think they would probably say elephant. Elephant and Olifant obviously could almost be a different spelling. But really what it is, basically the name is applied in the Middle Ages to a type of carved ivory hunting horn, or elephant tusk, if you will. It's basically a horn carved from elephant tusks out of ivory. And there are some beautiful carved Olifants. You can go look them up online. They are etched in ivory with such beautiful detail, and I can totally see why, if you were like the leader of a gang in medieval times, you would want something like this, because it would like make you the most badass guy in the tribe. But it was used back then to call armies to war, like a war siren, if you will. They would blow the Olifant, or I could see it being called for a tribe meeting or something, because you're the boss and you got the damn badass horn. But if you watch a review from Mark on the Robes08 channel, he reviewed Afrika-Olifant, and he basically, and he deserves love for all the work he's put into this hobby and all the videos he's done over the years, and he's one of the OGs, and I tip my hat to him. I still would like to do a live stream with him one of these days, but he says the scent reminds him of elephants, but specifically their feet is what he said, and which is interesting that he highlighted the feet, because I easily said dust or mud in the beginning. More dust for me, but I could see like an elephant stepping through mud and then that mud like hardening kind of thing. But if I was going to highlight a part of the elephant, I would want you to imagine the big long eyelashes with like dust sticking to them, or if you can imagine like the elephant grabbing like a trunk full of dirt and throwing it up on their back. If you've ever seen elephants do that, they almost build like a natural sunscreen for themselves using the dirt on the ground. Or just imagine like a warthog in its den, okay? And then they run from a lion and you just see this cloud of dust, like when the warthog really takes off, flying everywhere. Or like a rhino caked in dirt, and when it dries down, it dries to the color of like its armor. That's the feeling of the dirt to me personally. And it's definitely here. You definitely get this specific accord. Maybe even, I would even say maybe there's a little, one thing I picked up here, sometimes I like to talk about a note that I pick up that is not listed in the note listing. Here, maybe it's a little bit of honey, just a touch of something honey-like tends to come through. And you all know I'm a huge honey lover. There's no honey listed here, but there's definitely this, I don't know, I think there's like this honey feel that kind of comes through from time to time. But as it dries down, you do notice these little details here and there, embers in the dusk, if you will. The frankincense leaves, there's a little bit of this like fire that was burning and now is put out feeling, but you can still see the rising smoke. Musk starts to come into play. Musk joins the party more. It's almost like I can imagine like these animals coming of age, and all of a sudden their hormones kicking in. And you've ever seen an elephant? I forgot what they call it, but when elephants are in their version of heat, if you will, there's a specific name for it. Let me see if I can just look it up real quick. This is going to be a weird thing to search. Elephant heat. Elephants in heat. What is it called? Must. That's it. Okay, so this is a very interesting, because Elephants, when they go into quote unquote heat, it's actually called must, M-U-S-T-H. I knew it was something interesting I wanted to share with you guys, but urine dribbles down the back of their inside of their legs, all right? And you get this, what they call temporin secreting from their temporal glands right here by their face. So if you ever see like, it looks like, there's like this, it looks like there's maybe blood or a cut or something on the elephant's face, but it's like this temporal gland secreting this must, if you will, okay? And usually when elephants attack humans or something, they're in this state, this heightened state. But the reason I bring this up is there's definitely this sort of hardwired, testosterone driven, like, I don't know, like behavior to this fragrance, like this soup, this primal behavior. Feels very primal. But what's interesting is it's sexual, but in a weird, strange way. Almost like watching like two antelopes fight over a female, you know? Like it's not like, oh man, God, that's so sexy. It's kind of like, it's a weird, like you're watching it, you're intrigued, okay? As a human, you're sitting there watching this, but you're a little removed from the two antelopes struggle to get the, you know, when they're running with each other to try to get the female's attention, right? It's kind of like, okay, maybe you can be intrigued as a scientist or something, but you're not like bought into the contest or anything, right? Well, unless you're bought, I mean, maybe you're just like a super weirdo, but most 99.999% of those people are going to be very aloof. They're going to watch from afar, right? There's a strangeness to it. That's how the animalics here feel. There's this weird sort of ashy, dusty touches that come through. And I like the rubbery leather. I do. I like the rubbery leather. I like the animalics. Although I have to admit, by the 100% true admission, this is speaking from the heart, I thought that the animalics were done well, but I didn't think it was done expertly well, if that makes sense. And to be fair, I mean, I've probably smelled many more natural fragrances than the average frag head because I've been very lucky to smell lots of Aresias, lots of Sherwoods, lots of Ensars, lots of Bortnikovs. I'm not bragging, I'm just saying. And many of those fragrances I have real ouds and stuff like that, which can come off as animalic, or they've used real castoreum bits or real civet or all this stuff. And so maybe I'm being harder on this than most people would, okay? But my personal opinion, and that's the whole point of this channel, is to give you my 2 cents, is that I thought it was well done, but I didn't think it was like an animalic masterpiece or anything like that, okay? And maybe some people were expecting me to say that, but for me, I think if you said, Ramsey, I'm going to allow you to have one free Nishane fragrance in your collection, I would probably take this because it's like a safe bet for me. I know I like it. Or maybe even I would take Patchouli Koza because I've never smelled it. I know my brother Rich Mitch really likes it. That would be like a blind buy bet. And here's kind of where the rubber meets the road for me, okay? This is the tough part of when you're a hardcore frag head. You can't own everything. It's impossible. Like, unless you were Bill Gates or something, or you had an entire house dedicated to where you could just stack up perfumes in each and every room, you cannot own everything. Because every time you think you know everything, you know nothing. You know, there's more and more and more and more to learn. There's more and more coming out. There's more and more to smell. There's flankers of flankers of flankers. There's so many old things. Like today, for example, my scent of the day was Emilio Pucci Signor Vivara, which this came from 1970. I actually have a bottle, thank God, because I love this stuff. This is like, oh my God, it's so good. It's like, someone in the comments said it's like Miss Dior, but Mr. Dior. But like the vintage Miss Dior, the scratchy, leathery, galbanum heavy, like from the 40s. I imagine kind of a Dior Jour meets like Robert Piguet's Bandit, you know, like maybe there's even a little bit of Diaghilev in here. It's like that kind of leathery, hardcore type fragrance, but very masculine built. It from 1970, how they used to make masculines back in the day. And I would venture most people watching this video have not smelled this, you know what I mean? And so part of the problem for me, and again, it's not me bragging, it's just saying there is more and more. And once you really get into this hobby and if you commit yourself to like, okay, I want to smell as much as I can, good luck. I mean, good luck. because you could literally probably smell 5 new fragrances every day until the day you die and not even make a dent in the amount that's out there, right? So the reason I say all that is, as a frag head, you almost have to like decide. You have to pick your battles. You have to pick them wisely, okay? And there are some folks out there, and I really respect them, where they're like, I'm going to just wear what I like and fuck everything else. You know what I mean? I'm of the opinion, especially for the channel, like, I've said I want my channel to be a little bit of an encyclopedia, where I want to smell as much as I can, you know? And sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad, because sometimes I find myself wearing shit I don't even want to wear, you know? Like, I'm not interested in the fragrance. I'm only doing it for the channel. And that's abundantly clear. I would much rather wear stuff like this that really interests me. And so if you came to me and said, Ramsey, you can have a free bottle of Nishane, would I take this? Yes. But would I go spend $265 for 50 mils of my hard-earned money on this? No. No, I would not. And the reason is because there's this cost-benefit analysis that I have to do in my mind, right? $265, or let's say you can find it discounted for under 200 bucks. Would I spend $175 on a 50 mil of this when I can just wear hard leather, which I actually like Afrika-Olifant better than hard leather, but I could wear leather oud. I don't like Afrika-Olifant better than leather oud. Or I could wear Hyrax. Hyrax and Afrika-Olifant are kind of a toss-up for me. I think they're both kind of, I could wear either or and not really care. Maybe if you really twisted my arm, maybe I'd pick Afrika-Olifant. But, they play in the same sandbox enough for me that this 10 mil would give me a month or two of wearings, you know? So that's the trade-off I think you have to make when you're a hardcore fraghead. You have to kind of make sacrifices and decisions, because you can't own everything. You know, many new fragheads, when they first get into the hobby, they run head first and buy everything. I'm going to buy everything I see. And then they realize, shit, here's 100. Oh, I'm at 500 fragrances, but there's some of the stuff I hate and some of, and so that's why I always say get samples first. Like, this is perfect for me because I could wear it. I can get to know it. Like, would I like to have a bottle of this? Sure. Would I spend my hard-earned money on it? No. If they gave it to me, would I wear it? Yes. Do I think it's one of the better Nishanes? Yes, I do. Like, if somebody had a bottle of Afrika-Olifant and they were willing to trade my Ani for it, I'd do it right now. Well, I'd review Ani and bash it and then do it. But that's kind of my 2 cents on it. That's where I'm coming from. I hope that made sense and it wasn't just a ramble at the end. But that's kind of my take. Do I think it's an animalic masterpiece? No. Do I think if you're an animalic lover, you should smell it? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. But I think there is a little bit of, I don't want to say synthetic, but there's something that not puts me off in like an animalic way, but there was something that kind of put me off in the way Jorge Lee combined everything, if that makes sense. Like, again, me singing Nessun Dorna, it doesn't make sense. You need somebody who knows the proper way to sing it. So that's my 2 cents. That's my comparison on it. If you have experience with Afrika-Olifant, I'd love to hear your thoughts as always. I'm glad I'm getting a chance to do these videos, even if they are later at night. So it's an honor and a pleasure to get to do this for you guys. Thank you to everyone who is subscribed and watches and, is a part of the Ram Frag fam. It's an honor. I really do enjoy, I'm not saying I'm the last honest man in Fragcom, because I think there's a lot of us now that are kind of picking up the torch and fighting back against the influencer shills who are just so full of shit. It's like you're smelling some chemical Latafa sludge going, oh wow, yeah, no, oh yeah, the lavender in there is beautiful. Oh wow, the tonka bean, oh yes, absolutely. Oh, look at that ylang-ylang note, and you're like, bullshit, you don't smell ylang-ylang in that. It's just a chemical soup. And so I think now more and more of us are kind of pushing back against some of the influencer types, and there's a handful of us that are carrying that torch, but it's a long process. I mean, it's a very it's a thankless job, let's say. Very few people, you don't have the affiliate codes making all the money like the shills do. And sometimes you're reviewing fragrances that know, like I would love to review this Signor Vivara by Emilio Pucci. How many views would this get? Do I care? No, but you know, if you're in the market to have your channel grow, you're going to do the stuff that is going to get 5 or 10 times the views as this. But if you're a vintage lover and if you watch my channel for the vintage tips, this is one you should definitely get your nose on. There's so many of these little one-offs out there is the problem. My God, man, what a fragrance. So yes, that is my take and my ramble. Thanks for watching as always. Cheers, guys, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.